delegates were chaired by Rabbi Solomon Goldman. And that meant the Hadassah group was also part of that group. And we took a train to Paris, to a hotel there, and I don't remember the name of the hotel. And there we sat to think through what we should do at that point. The Queen Mary was to leave, I think, about a week later, and most of the delegates from the United States had booked for that last Queen Mary. The Hadassah delegates had planned to go to a Youth Aliyah Congress in Amsterdam afterward, and we were booked on a ship called the Aquitania. The Aquitania. But of course that was called off. No way that we'd get there. But Mrs. David D. Solapool was president of Senior Hadassah at the time, made a recommendation that we all go to a little village called, I think it was called Neurit, and wait for the next step. But it was decided there in our caucus that we should be getting a directive from the American Consul, and no way that all of us should track to the American Consul and ask individually for advice.
Right.
So a committee was appointed of, I think, 6 people who were to go to the American Consul and that's what should we do.
Right.
But the next day, dozens of us said, why should we rely on other people to
Get us out.
to report what we should do? Let's go ourselves and hear it
Everybody
directly.
went.
So
Right.
we all met there instead. Not all, but I was part of the
Sure.
group that wanted to hear it with my own ears.
I would too.
Anyhow, we got back to the hotel then, and we took this bus to Nervi, but it was already a blackout.
In Paris.
Oh, it was blackout at the hotel. Oh yes, I think of another funny incident. We're all sitting around in a circle at the hotel, glum, worried, especially the rabbis in the group, because this was era of the high holidays, and they had to get back,
Yeah.
and they were beside themselves. But while we're all sitting, contemplating, worried, glum, as I said before, a Western Union boy arrives there, and he hands a telegram to Rabbi Morton Berman, and it was from his wife, her name was Sunshine, and she said, Morty, suggest you take the earliest possible transportation home.
So everybody cheered up.
we were able to laugh about that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, on this bus that we chartered en route to this little village, it was already blackout. The windows of the bus were closed, and 2 times while we were en route, the bus was stopped and the bus driver was called off to go to service, and there was a change of guard. New people got on, and we came to this little village, and the villagers were standing around in the dark with their shawls. Okay, let me pick up from where I left off. Let me tell you something of what it was like to arrive in this little village in France, to which we were led by Tamar de Solapool. She was the only one who knew French, and she knew about this little village. And the reason we came, that's a port city, and the reason we came there was because when we were stuck in Paris not knowing what to do, some people said, by all means, go to a port city, because it stands to reason that if there's going to be bombing, they'll bomb Paris first. Another group said, no, the thing to do is to stay in Paris, because obviously the port city is going to be bombed first. So I remember we took a vote among the delegates, and in this particular group we were all the Chicagoans, and we decided to go to the port city. So there we were, landing in this little place late at night, and what we saw were little groups of the villagers standing around in their headgear, and they were whispering and talking just in the dark with flashlights, and they greeted us warmly, and it was with Tamar Poole translating. We knew that they were so frightened, and they were so worried, and they were so nervous, not knowing what the next minute will bring. Anyhow, we got to our beds, and what kind of sleep we had isn't worth talking about. We got up in the morning, and the woman who owned that little inn had some homemade muffins that she had made for us, and then for the 3-4 days, well, we had to hang around there, just waiting nervously for something to happen. The people that were scheduled to leave on that last Queen Mary, they were just waiting to hear whether the Queen Mary would sail at all. And those of us who had previously planned to go on to the Youth Aliyah Congress in Switzerland, we didn't know what would happen. We weren't going to get onto that Queen Mary. Finally, word came that the Queen Mary was going to leave, and the Chicagoans who had bookings on that one got up early in the morning and came to the port, and it was decided that all the rest of us that were left behind, that we would accompany them to see them off. And there was a fellow by the name of Judge Elliot Stone from Boston, and he had the same idea that I did. It was, why don't we go along with our bags packed? Who knows? Maybe somebody won't make it, and there will be some spots where they could take us. And the rest of the people just laughed at us naive people as if there would be any vacant spots on that ship. But we decided that's what we would do. So we went along with our bags. And I think everybody was piled onto the ship by 5 o'clock. And Elliot Stone had made an arrangement with the man who was going to check on the
booking.
On the rest, whether everybody had come, and he was to report to us just in case. Well, we waited in that port, Elliot Stone and I, for 2 long hours.
Where did you wait?
In the station, and dark. I don't remember if it was by flashlight or what, but we just waited and waited, and all at once we hear a shrill call, "Stone, Ziff, Stone, Ziff," and the next thing we knew is that they threw us on the gangplank, and our bags came rolling down after us. And what I can remember very distinctly was the first person we saw when we landed on the ship was Solomon Goldman, Rabbi Goldman. And he had just come out of dinner, and he had a toothpick in his mouth, and he thought they had been sailing for 2 hours. And he saw us just rolling on and didn't know that the ship had not left yet even. And well, my luck was that the person that didn't show, somebody had sent her a box of candy, and I inherited that box of candy. Well, the sail back to New York was a dismal, lonely, frightening out of the windows, and if we saw a light up on high, we were panicked as to what that might be. We spent most of our time congregated around where the news might come in and report it to us. And every now and then we'd get such a news bulletin. So it was a, what shall I say, a dismal ride back. Let me tell you just about that final arrival. Finally, we saw the Statue of Liberty, which means that we were approaching Ellis Island. And there were tears, there were hugs. It was an emotional experience, I can tell you that. And everybody, we got off the ship, we all galloped for the telephones so that we could call our families. And I got to a phone. It was early in the morning, something like 6 o'clock, which meant that it was 5 o'clock in Minneapolis where my family lived. And my brother answered the phone, and I heard him scream to my mother, Mother, it's Nell from New York. And my mother came to the phone, and then there was a silence, and my brother got back on, and he said my mother had fainted. And the reason for her panic was that the family remembered that I was to have come back on a ship called the Aquitania, and they had heard, like 2 weeks before, that a ship named Athenia was sunk.
So they
And
thought you were sunk. Right.
There was no way to check. We had no communication once we arrived in Paris, and there was absolutely no way for them to be in touch with us. And Athenia, Aquitania, it all sounded the same, and my mother was in mourning for her Nechala. That's the one thing I heard her say on the phone, Nechala, and then it means. So that was
What a hard
arrival back.
to come back to.
And then the next day it was back to normal living, back to